God when there was no reason to trust any longer. I don't know what God is doing in your life. I don't know why you've been compelled to wait as long as you have for the one thing that you've been waiting on. I have no idea the answer for that. But while you are waiting, what if you begin to consider what God might be doing beyond you? What God might be working in you for the benefit of future generations. Do you realize that this wait in your life might not even really be about you? It might be about someone someday along the line who can look back at you in your life and go, you remember Grandma? You remember Grandpa? You remember this person who just waited and never stopped believing and trusting in God? If they did that, then I can do this. We have no idea what God is working that's beyond us. But what if we set our sights on the God who moves in ways that we cannot yet see? If you trust God, maybe somebody down the line will likewise trust him. So again, the question is, what are we supposed to be doing in the midst of this wait? If we can't always know why, if we can't figure it out and manipulate it and do anything to make God do what we want him to do, well then what are we supposed to be doing in the middle of this wait? Number one, consider what's beyond you. Number two, reject what is beneath you. This one's also known as there's no more original sin than trying to play God. If you go to chapter 16, they'd been waiting around 10 years, something like that. And Abraham's wife, Sarah, she was called Sarai at that point, came up with a plan born out of frustration. What she said was, God has kept me from having children. Do you notice her first mistake is thinking that God's not yet is the same as no. She said, God has done this to me. God has kept me from having children. And so what she says is, I want you, Abraham, my husband, to go sleep with my slave and therefore have children with her. Maybe God won't keep her from having children, and we can build a family through her. Now, a lot of you have read this story before. Some of you are brand new to the Bible, and you're like, this stuff's in the Bible? Like, this is insane. Why would any wife say that to her husband? Well, to us, it's absurd. But in their culture, there was a distinct hierarchy of people. And so Sarah's servant was literally just property to her and to them. And so if you could raise up a family through her servant, it was sort of the same. It was an extension of the woman herself. It's how things went. But even in this context, you can feel that it's uncomfortable. And you can see how uncomfortable it gets if you keep reading the story. This is just how things went. But for a discerning man today, this feels like a man trap, doesn't it? This feels like a setup. It's like if your wife just looks at you and goes, don't you think my best friend is pretty? What are you supposed to say to that? There's only one answer, and it's this. You can write this down, men. Ooh, no, she's dog ugly, especially compared to you. I don't care what she looks like. That's the only acceptable answer. Don't ever fall for that one. I remember in my own family, it was 2017, and our whole family happened to be home watching the first inauguration of Donald Trump. Now, whether you like him or not, we recognize at that moment, we believe this was true, that like this was a sort of a landmark moment, a historical moment, because of just the shocking upset that was. It was like it was clear politics are probably not going to be the same anymore, that he has been elected to this position. So we were watching this inauguration, soaking it all in. And all of a sudden, they just pan over to Melania Trump. And my wife, just saying to no one in particular, I just hear her go, boy, she is so pretty. And as soon as I heard her say that, my ears perked up and my eyes went immediately to the floor. Because I did not remember seeing Melania Trump before that moment. I don't watch a whole lot of news. I didn't know what she looked like. I didn't really see her. And so she goes, boy, she is so pretty. And immediately my eyes go down because I went, this is a trap. I know this is a trap. She didn't even mean to set the trap, but it was set, and it was all queued up. And I thought, I don't know what to say here, because if I say, ooh, gross, she looks like the back end of a horse, well, that's probably transparent, because I think she used to be a model. But if I say something like, my wife likes communication. She likes conversation. Even if she doesn't ask a question, even if she just makes a statement, she likes for me to respond. But I knew I couldn't say, no, she looks like a dog. I mean, she's probably a model. But if I said, yeah, she sure is, I knew those eyes would lock with mine. and just bury me into the carpet. And so I pretended I was in front of a T-Rex. Like I thought, if I just don't move and I just look down here, then she'll just forget about me and she'll never know I even exist. And so I said absolutely nothing. And that, my friends, is man logic 101. That's not complicated. That's the way you handle that sort of thing. But as you read this story, you recognize old Abraham missed the course. Because when Sarah said, go sleep with my servant and make a baby, Abraham seems to be like, oh, I couldn't possibly, okay. He's on his way to the tent before she gets the whole idea out. And it went exactly like you'd think it would go. She does get pregnant, she has a baby, and Sarah immediately hates the servant, hates the child. You can read this whole list. It leads to this sort of cattiness from Hagar to Sarah, heartache for Abraham, bullying from Sarah to Hagar. It leads to the eventual abandonment of a woman and her child, and eventually bullying from Hagar's son to Sarah's son many years later. And beyond that, by the way, in case you missed it, forever animosity between those two lines of people. That's what we're experiencing still today in the Middle East, is those two lines of people it's ruinous for them. And so that one decision, my point is that one decision ruined the entire world. And what I'm saying is it wasn't just this sort of foolish husband move where, man, he got that one wrong. It was Sarah and Abraham refusing to wait on God's best. They're trying to make it happen in their own strength. And I wonder how many of us have ever been guilty of something similar. God says not yet, and you keep saying, well, but if I just do this, or maybe I can make this happen, or God hasn't released this yet, but maybe it's something that I'll do and I can fix this and it'll be great. Taking initiative when God already said not yet. That sort of self-exaltation is the purest, most original form of sin. And it is beneath you as a person of faith. So our question is, what am I supposed to be doing while I'm waiting? Well, one, he says, maybe consider what's beyond you. Consider the generations beyond you and what God might be working in you to benefit other people. But the second thing he's showing us is you have to reject that sort of life and that decision-making that is far beneath you as a follower of Jesus Christ. And finally this, how about you notice what is right in front of you? When I was trying to figure out, because this story is long, and it was like, I'm not just going to read you 10 chapters this morning, I was trying to figure out, like, what order do I put these in? Because you can kind of bounce through this story. The one thing I knew was, I wanted to save this one for last because it's my absolute favorite. This whole narrative, as I said, sort of spans all of this time, but notice where the story goes. Between these renewals of God's promise. What you're catching is this sort of 25-year span of Abraham's life. And these mile markers are, God comes back and says, no, I know you're tired of waiting, but this is happening. This is happening. Watch what happens to the story in between them. Chapter 14, war breaks out in the region, and Abraham's nephew, Lot, is taken hostage. So Abraham goes and he leverages all his resources, all his relationships in the area, and he goes on this rescue mission. It's a very cool story. It's like Mission Impossible before Tom Cruise. He goes in, flies in, and saves Lot. It's awesome. And then chapter 18, a way grosser and more horrific story. Lot is living in this city that's turned its back on God. And their sin is so grievous that God determines, I'm going to wipe them off the map. But in an effort to protect his beloved family member, Abraham engages in this form of intercession that is as beautiful as anything you will see outside of the book of Esther. And in the end, his intercession does not save the cities. But when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. And the question I kept asking myself when I read those stories is, let's say Abraham and Sarah had their child by